Welcome to the Grove, everybody. My name is Taylor, and today we're learning how to play Betrayal at House on the Hill, designed by Bruce Glasgow with art by Henning Ludvigsen and published by Avalon Hill. Just a note, we are playing the 3rd edition of the game, so if you're used to 2nd edition, be aware that a few rules have changed. A game of Betrayal unfolds in 2 parts. In the first part, you and your friends are exploring the house, placing tiles to build as you go. But let's start with the biggest mystery of all. Who are you? Each player chooses a character color and takes the matching standee along with that character's board. Also, keep in mind that the player boards are double-sided, so you can choose which version of the character you'd like to play. Each player board shows the character's name and portrait, along with their age, birthday, hobbies, and an interesting fact. Some of these details may come into play during events or the haunt. The character whose birthday comes next in the calendar year will take the first turn. The most important part of the board, however, is the numbers around its edge. These numbers represent your traits. There are 4 in total: might and speed, which are your physical traits, and knowledge and sanity, which are your mental traits. These numbers are used whenever you're asked to make a trait roll. In addition, speed determines how many tiles you may move during your turn, while might is the trait that you use for combat rolls, unless stated otherwise. You'll notice that each trait on your board has several numbers listed. That's because your traits can change as the game progresses. To begin, place 1 plastic clip on each of the green numbers. These are the starting values. Throughout the game, you may have chances to increase your traits, or you may be forced to lower them due to damage or other effects. Whenever a trait changes, simply slide the plastic clip up or down the track. Keep in mind that many numbers appear more than once. When adjusting a trait, you always move the clip to the next space, not to the next different number. At the bottom of each track, you'll see a skull icon. If any of your traits ever reach that skull, your character dies. Yes, it is possible to be so weak, so slow, or even so foolish that you don't survive. But don't panic. During the first phase, your clip cannot move below your lowest number. Once the haunt begins though, all bets are off and the safeguards are gone. We'll explain how that works when we get there. Now that you know who you are, it's time to figure out why you're here. Before starting, select one of the scenario cards. These won't affect the early part of the game, but they will determine which haunts are available later. This lets you guide the theme of the story, or pick a haunt that you haven't experienced before. First, set aside the Traitor's Tome and Secrets of Survival books. You'll use them after the haunt has started. Shuffle the event, item, and omen cards into their own decks and place them face down within reach of everyone. And be sure to keep some of these dice nearby too. Set the number track, pointer, and tokens aside. Some of these will be used in certain haunt scenarios, so just keep them handy. And now, let's set up the house. Every game begins with 3 tiles in play: the basement landing, the upper landing, and the long 3-in-1 tile that contains the entrance hall, the hallway, and ground floor staircase. Be sure to leave some space between these tiles so that you have room to build as the house expands. All remaining tiles are shuffled into a single stack and set aside, and everyone will start in the entrance hall. The ground floor staircase connects directly to the upper landing. However, at the start of the game, there's no way to reach the basement landing. At least, not yet. On your turn, you can explore and discover new rooms, trade items with anyone in the same space, and use special abilities on your items or omens. Once the haunt begins, additional actions will become available, but we'll go over those when the time comes. If the tile you're on has a door with no room connected to it, and you still have movement remaining, you can walk into the unknown and discover a new room. To do this, draw the top tile off of the stack and check if it matches the floor you're currently on. If it does, reveal it and place it so that at least one of the doors connects to the open door of your current tile. If it doesn't match your floor, place it at the bottom of the stack and continue drawing until you find one that does. If there are no more tiles in the stack that mention your region, just back away slowly and hope that nobody noticed you running face first into that locked door. One important rule to remember: you can never place a tile in a way that cuts off the rest of the floor. This means that if you're exploring the last open door on your floor and you draw a dead end, you can't place it. Instead, put that tile on the bottom of the stack and draw another. If it turns out you can't place any tiles without blocking off the floor, simply rearrange the layout so that you can continue exploring. After placing the new tile, move your character onto it and resolve any effects that say when you discover this tile, or when you enter this tile. For example, the library tile reads, when you discover this tile, gain 1 knowledge. If the tile you reveal has one of 3 symbols, event, item, or omen, you must draw a card from the matching deck, read it aloud, and resolve its effects as instructed. Once you do, your turn immediately ends. If the tile doesn't have any of these symbols, you don't draw a card, but your turn does still end. For example, this symbol represents an event. That means you'll draw from the yellow event deck. Each card begins with some italicized flavor text. Read this part first, then continue with the instructions. Once you finish resolving the effect, place the card onto the bottom of the deck. Many event cards will require a trait roll. To make a trait roll, check your character board for the trait listed. Roll a number of dice equal to your current score in that trait, adding any bonuses granted by items or omens. After rolling, total up the value and compare it to the event card, which will list the outcome based on how well, or let's be honest, how poorly you rolled. Keep in mind that Betrayal's dice are special. They only show values of 0, 1, or 2, so make sure you're using the correct dice and not just a standard d6. This symbol represents an item, which means you'll draw from the orange item deck. Once you gain an item, read its description and place it face up in front of you. Items can provide one-time effects, extra actions, or ongoing trait bonuses, all of which can be very valuable as the game progresses. If you decide that you don't want to keep an item, or if you think another player can make better use of it, you may trade once per turn with another player on the same tile as you, as long as you both agree to the trade. This symbol represents an omen, which means you'll draw from the green omen deck. Omens are powerful cards, though they sometimes come with a price. When you gain an omen, read its description and place it face up in front of you just like an item. Many omens grant trait bonuses or extra abilities, but most can't be traded or discarded unless the card specifically allows it. After drawing an omen, you must make a haunt roll. Count the total number of omen cards in play across all players, then roll that many dice. If the result is 5 or higher, the haunt begins. The player who makes that roll is now known as the Haunt Revealer. Congratulations! You just doomed your entire group. That now brings us to the second part of the game, the Haunt. Look back at the scenario card that you selected at the start of the game. This lists each omen, the corresponding haunt number, and who becomes the traitor. For example, if your chosen scenario was a mysterious invitation and the omen that triggered the haunt was the skull, you would begin haunt number 48, and the character with the highest might becomes the traitor. Everyone else is now considered a hero. Once you know the haunt number, take out the Secrets of Survival book and the Traitor's Tome, turning both to that haunt. First, a hero reads the haunt introduction aloud and completes all of the hero setup steps. Then, the traitor reads their introduction aloud and performs their setup. If the scenario begins without a traitor, simply set the Traitor's Tome aside for now. Once both setups have been read, send that dastardly traitor to another room so that the rest of you don't have to look at their treacherous face for a few minutes. During this time, each side should read through the rest of their haunt instructions and discuss strategy. Keep this information secret from the opposing side, unless you're performing a special action that requires you to reveal it. In those cases, read the action aloud so that everyone knows what's happening. Once the traitor returns, the game resumes, but from here on, things work a little bit differently. Most importantly, you may now attack each other. Heroes can attack the traitor or any monsters, while the traitor can target the heroes. Combat is resolved with an opposed roll. Both the attacker and defender roll for a trait, and the higher total wins. Attacks are made with might, unless you have a card such as a weapon that allows you to attack using a different trait. When making an attack, you may use one, and only one, of your items or omens labeled as a weapon. These typically grant extra dice, or add more to the result of your roll. After comparing rolls, the loser takes damage equal to the difference between the two results. To mark this, you lower your trait sliders by 1 notch per point of damage. Damage must be applied to physical traits if the attack was physical, or mental traits if the attack was mental. If there's a tie between the rolls, no damage is applied to either character. Now that the haunt has begun, your explorer can die, so do everything that you can to keep your traits above the skull. If your character dies, turn their standee on its side to show that they're now a corpse. Other players may still trade with you or take your items if they share your space, but they no longer need your permission to do so. There are also a few additional rules to keep in mind. Some effects refer to line of sight, which exists between two tiles if you can move between them in a perfectly straight line without turning. It can stretch across any number of tiles, and if a tile is in line of sight, then all figures on that tile are considered in line of sight as well. Some tiles contain obstacles which make them harder to leave. If your tile has an obstacle, it now costs 2 points of movement to exit instead of 1, no matter how many obstacles are present. Once the hunt begins, every figure that's not on your team also counts as an obstacle. For heroes, that means the traitor and any monsters, and for the traitor, that means any of the heroes. If monsters are in play, they can sometimes be controlled by the traitor depending on the hunt type. These will direct you to use the monster reference card, which contains the rules for how the monsters behave. If a monster has a stat, it's fixed and can't be raised or lowered. Most monsters can't be killed. Instead, if you win combat against one, it becomes stunned. Flip its token over to indicate that it can't take any more actions on its next turn. Monsters also move differently from explorers. At the start of the monster phase, the traitor rolls a number of dice equal to the monster type's speed trait, and all monsters of that type may move up to the total rolled. And that's the core of the game. Some haunts will introduce additional items, tokens, or even entirely new rules, so be sure to read them carefully and follow their instructions. From this point on, it becomes a race between the heroes and the traitor. The first side to complete their objective wins the game. And now that you know how to play, consider checking out our full playthrough video that is popping up above my head now, or can be found as a link in the video description. And that's everything you need to know to play Betrayal at House on the Hill. Will you and your friends escape the house, or will you become ghosts that haunt these halls?